Not wood. Those were Min's orders for the 10th day. Once again, Drea trundled the cart, this time along the river road, until he reached the digging area. Here the clay had been cut away in neat slabs, leaving a pattern of staggered rectangles in the riverbank. Drea paused for a moment when he reached the clay pits. He had passed by the pits many times before, and had always liked looking at the scene there. The geometric pattern of the clay bank pleased him. But today he felt as though he was seeing the men and boys working there for the first time. Using spades, they slashed at the clay with movements almost too swift to follow. When a slab of clay had been outlined with the spade, it was cut away from the bank and heaved into a nearby cart or basket. Drea watched for a while the spade Min had given him on his shoulder. Then he slid down the muddy bank to stand in the shallow water. Raising the spade high over his shoulder, he brought it down with a dull thunk. It sliced into the wet clay, and Drea noted with satisfaction the clean line made by the spade's edge. He tugged at the spade's handle, ready to make his next cut. The spade did not budge. Drea frowned and pulled again. The head of the spade was well and truly buried. Drea tried using both hands down low on the handle. The clay made squelching, sucking noises as if it were trying to swallow the spade. Finally, Drea was forced to claw away the clay around the spade head in order to free it. His arms and legs were already covered with mud. He paused to brush away a mosquito and rubbed a swash of mud across one side of his face. At last, he stood up and swung the spade again. It took him all morning to fill the cart with clay. The other diggers were long gone, having cut their clay with a swift skill that left Drea alone and in despair. Heavy. The wet clay was far heavier than he had ever imagined. He could not begin to lift a slab with the spade. He had to cut each slab into several pieces and lift them one at a time into the cart. Drea scowled to see the misshapen masses of clay in his cart, so different from the neat rectangles of the other workers. Moreover, the spade work had torn open his blistered hand again. But it was not so painful as it had been on the mountainside, for here he could apply handfuls of cooling, soothing mud to the wound. By the time the cart was loaded, Drea wore mud like a second skin. Even raising his eyebrows was difficult, for his forehead was stiff with dried clay. And he was so exhausted that he could hardly bear the thought of wheeling the now heavy cart back to Min's house. Then a sudden thought came to him. Dinner! He had forgotten in the toil of the morning. Apprentices, assistants, the lowliest workers in every trade, no matter what their status, it was the master's duty to provide a meal for them in the middle of the workday. Now that Drea was no longer working off a debt, Min was obliged to feed him. The thought broke through Drea's fatigue like a shaft of sunlight piercing a cloud. He left the cart on the road and bounded into the river. He scrubbed and splashed and ducked under the water completely to get rid of as much grime as he possibly could. It would never do to appear for his first working meal dressed in mud. Min glanced briefly at the clay-filled cart. "You were long enough in returning," he said with a sniff. "I will not be able to do any more work until after my midday meal." He walked into the house, having said nothing about Drea's food. But Drea barely had time to wonder before Min's wife appeared in the doorway. She held out a parcel tied up in cloth. Drea trotted to the door, resisting the impulse to snatch the parcel from her. He bowed his head and held out his hands, palms out them together, as was proper when accepting something. Min's wife placed the cloth package in his hands. "Eat well, work well," she said. A hot lump rose in Drea's throat. He raised his head and saw in her eyes that she heard his thanks even though he could not speak the words. Drea sat on a stone under the paulownia tree and untied the corners of the cloth. It held a gourd bowl filled with rice, whose whiteness was accented by a few dark shreds of savory dried fish, and a little pile of kimchi, pickled cabbage, vivid with seasonings of red pepper, green onions, and garlic. A pair of chopsticks was laid neatly across the top of the bowl. Drea picked up the chopsticks and stared for a moment. Of one thing he was certain. The feast-day banquets in the palace of the king could never better the modest meal before him, for he had earned it. Drea carted another load of clay for Min that afternoon, then returned to the bridge where Craneman had stewed some wild mushrooms for their supper. Drea spoke eagerly about his work that day. It was not until Craneman rose to gather the supper bowls that Drea noticed something was missing. Crutch. Sure enough, after handing Drea the bowls to wash, Craneman sat down with his knife and a sturdy, straight branch and began to whittle a new new crutch. Drea wiped out the bowls, stacked them neatly on their rock shelf, and finally asked, "What happened to the old one?" Crane Man paused in his work and waved his knife impatiently. "Stupidity happened," he answered. "There was a run of flounder today." That was all he said, but Drea heard much more. Although Chulpo was on the sea, it was a potter's village, not a fishing village. The men and boys seldom took time from their work to fish. Still, they all knew the useful skill of fishing, and the women and girls often gathered shellfish at low tide. A run of flounder meant that a school of the tasty fish had come into shore far closer than usual. The waves even tossed fish right up on the beach. Such news sent many scrambling for their bamboo poles, but one had to be among the first to run from the village down to the shore. The flounder found their way back out to sea soon enough, and the fish flopping about on the sand were scooped up only by the quickest. It had always been Tree who skipped out to the beach at the first word of a flounder run, and he had never returned without a fat fish or two for a rare feast. Now he knew without asking that Crane Man had hobbled down to the beach and lurched about on the sand, so treacherous to his crutch, only to come away empty-handed. Crane Man shaved another curl of wood, then held the crutch up to his eye, squinting to check that its lines were true. "I was angry about not getting any fish," he said as he returned to his whittling. "So I struck my crutch against the rock. It broke, of course." A little pile of shavings had grown at Crane Man's feet. Tree crouched and stirred the pile with his finger, too ashamed to look up. In his mind he saw Crane Man making his slow, painful way back from the beach with only a broken crutch to help him, and no fish for his trouble. How was it that in enjoying his noontime meal, Tree had forgotten his friend? He should have saved some of the food for Crane Man. If it had been the other way around, Crane Man would never have forgotten. Tree swept the shavings into his palm, then threw them into the river. As he watched the current carry them away, he mumbled, "I am sorry about the flounder." "Ah, friend," Crane Man said, "you must mean I am sorry about your leg, because that is the reason for our fishless supper today. But I think it a waste for either of us to spend too much time in sorrow over something we cannot change." Crane Man grunted as he stood and leaned on the new crutch to test it. Satisfied, he nodded at Tree. "Besides, when I leave this world, I will have 2 good legs and no need for such as this." And he tapped the crutch with his free hand. Still cross with himself, Tree grumbled half under his breath, "Some of us will have 4 good legs." Crane Man batted at him with the new crutch. "What are you saying, impudent boy? That I will be a beast in the next life?" Tree began to protest. "No, not you." Then he stopped and grinned. "Well, maybe," he said, putting his hand on his chin in an attitude of deep thought. "A rabbit, I think. Very clever and quick." "You had better be quick now yourself," Crane Man bellowed in mock anger, brandishing the crutch sword fashion. Tree began hopping about the little den like a rabbit, dodging Crane Man's jabs and swipes, his shame forgotten for the moment, as the day ended in laughter.